At what point during your WWE run, or maybe it was when you were in OVW, do you feel like Vince or somebody else in the office kind of pointed at you and went, yes, like we're going to strap a rocket to your back? Because I feel like that's what happened. Was there a specific moment when that happened?
There was. I, I I don't say this with great glee, but I will say that the best thing that ever happened to me in my career was Jim Cornette slapping, paintbrushing Santino Marella backstage at OVW because, excuse me, he he did that and he got fired, and they brought Paul Heyman in, and I had done some stuff with Paul. Would come down every couple months and he would do a promo day, and we would have to come up with an opponent and a 2-minute promo. We would go in and sit in a room with Paul and a camera, cut the promo. Then he would give you some feedback, a few notes. Then you'd go home and fine tune it and come back the next day and cut it again. And I remember I would come back and I would sit down, and he was always kind of like not standoffish, but just professional, you know?
Sure.
And then I would come back on the second day and I would cut the promo and he would go, I love it. Great. I'd say, any notes or anything? Nope.
Yeah.
Loved it. Thank you. And I was like, this guy hates me, you know, like, okay, that's the worst. Sometimes when you're trying to learn and you're trying to get to that next level, that's the worst thing, is not hearing anything at all, not hearing any feedback. There's got to be something that I can do better.
Sure.
And then when that happened and Paul Heyman came in the first day to do TV at OVW, he pulled me into the office and he said, "You're the next guy out of here." He literally said those words. He said, "You're the next guy out of here." He said, "I've been a fan of yours since I saw you when you were an extra," because I had been an extra one time, and all the extras were in the ring, like doing, like, there had to be 10 of us, and we were just kind of tagging in and tagging out, and you get in there and wrestle, and guys were getting in there and they would just chain wrestle. And I remember Davari had been hired at that time already, and he pulled me aside and he was like, "That's not what they're looking for. They don't care if you can wrestle. They don't want to see moves. They want to see character." And so when I got in there, I made sure to show some character and stuff. And Jim Ross and Paul Heyman were sitting ringside. They were the only two people there because like everybody else was in a staff meeting or something. And I tagged out and Paul said, "Come here for a second." And I walked over to him. He was like, "Who trained you?" And I was like, "I got trained by 2 guys in Green Bay." And then I got polished up and fine tuned by Brad Rangans. And his eyes lit up because Brad Rangans trained Brock Lesnar. And he was like, and he asked me a couple questions, and from that point on, it was like, I think at the end of the day, he gave me his number. He told me, like, call my number next week. Let's talk. And I was like, here we go.
You became a Paul Heyman guy. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Yep. And but I would call every week, and he would never return my phone calls. So you know, and then fast forward, we're in that office, and he says, "You're the next guy out of here. I've been a fan of yours since that day, and I've loved your promo work and stuff, and I'm going to do so much stuff with you on TV that they're going to have to take notice, and you'll get pulled up." And that first night, OVW was a 1-hour program, and I think I had 35 to 40 minutes on that first 1-hour program that Paul Heyman did. And 5 weeks later, I got a call from Tommy Dreamer, and he said, "Hey, they want you to come up, and they want to see you. They want you to do your gimmick." Because I had just started doing the, you know, the announcer thing, announcing my name and saying my last name twice. And I went up, and this was crazy because I was just supposed to do a dark match. It was supposed to be a dark match against Funaki. Funaki was going to win the match. And I was in gorilla position. I'm warming up, doing push-ups, going over everything in my head. And Vince walked by. And Vince would never come up and see the dark matches and stuff. He would sit down literally as the pyro was going off for SmackDown or Raw or whatever. And he came up and he nodded at me. And then like 2 minutes later, Dave Lagana came walking around the corner and he said, "Hey, there's been a change." And I immediately in my head, I was like, they're pulling my match. Okay, no big deal. And he said, "We have to come up with a finish for you because you're going over, you're winning the match. And this is no longer going to be a dark match. This is going to be a televised match. And welcome aboard. And he stuck out his hand. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And earlier in the day, I had gone in and done a promo. Brooklyn Brawler pulled me aside. He's like, hey, come here and cut a promo. And I went in and I just had something in my back pocket because I had cut so many, it's been 6 years. And I hit that promo, and I remember he said, like, I'm going to tell Vince. That was awesome.
Wow.
And he did. So it was like all these things sort of merged together. And I was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time also.